Hey everybody, my name is Snitch. Welcome to another episode of CO Select. Today's game is a tier 3 match on the Fog of War map, Stolen Seconds. My opponent on Red Fire is Tomdor, a fairly reasonable rated player, really nice person. Had a few conversations with him in Discord after we played a couple of games now. They beat me quite bad the first one. I'm still learning Fog. It was a rough experience. I can say that they're definitely skilled. At least comparatively to me. Yeah, they're playing Lash today. Lash's day-to-day bonus is she gets an additional 10% firepower bonus per terrain star. So obviously plains reward you with a single terrain star. So therefore you get a 10% firepower bonus, and that scales, 20% with forests, 30% with urban terrain, and 40% HQ, and so on and so forth. Her regular power is Prime Tactics, which removes the terrain cost for all of her units' movement on that turn. Essentially means that she can just, send recons blazing across the map, etc. Generally not used. Most of the time you're saving for her super, which is, her super is Prime Tactics, sorry, the regular is Terrain Tactics. The super is Prime Tactics, which does the same thing, but additionally doubles all terrain stars that she receives for that turn, which obviously works with her day-to-day to double her firepower bonus, ranging up to 80% when attacking from the HQ. Could be definitely pretty substantial. Played Cobalt Ice today, once again mixing it up. I'm playing Kindle. Kindle's day-to-day bonus is when she is sat on urban terrain. Her units deal an additional 40% damage. 40% firepower increase. Very, very effective. Definitely one of the harder things to deal with, especially for newer players who, obviously properties are what you fight over a lot, so Kindle can just sit on them and make your life a living hell. Her regular power is Urban Blight, very infamous. It does 3 HP of damage to every opposing unit that is sat on urban terrain. Urban terrain is defined as anything that's capturable, essentially. So comm towers, for example, do count as urban terrain. Missile silos that are unfired, commonly used in AWBW maps as like an additional terrain modifier, do not. But yeah, so Urban Blight does 3 damage to all opponents' units that are sat on urban terrain for that turn. Obviously, generally a big economic swing, forcing them to repair basically all their units. And unless they're capturing, so that's around classic properties, that all their further back units, especially the ones that's produced, would be forced to pay repair costs. Super is High Society, a little bit less used. Generally, she's more of a CO power spammer, but it gives all of her units. And her CO power also increases her day-to-day from 40% to 80%. A bit of a flimsy intro, my apologies. High Society increases her day-to-day power to 120% or 110, which is pretty insane. Crazy day-to-day value at that point. Just completely unnecessary to go this high, but you know how it is. And additionally, gives her an additional 3% bonus firepower for all units. They don't have to be in urban terrain for every city that she owns. So most maps, you can range from maybe like 16 to 22 properties outside of the main ones, especially if you're winning. High Society can definitely give you some pretty big numbers, just assuming you have like 16, which I think is reasonable for most maps. You're getting 48% bonus firepower on all units, and then on, if you sat on urban terrain, you're doing like 168%. Or 178%, I guess, because of the super base firepower increase. But basically just crazy numbers. just gets astronomically high. But Urban Blight is such an effective tool that traditionally you won't see in most cases where High Society comes into play. Today's map is Stolen Seconds. Kind of an interesting map. 2 base versus 1 base side, so standard, you have an aggressive side and a defensive side. Contested properties on this map, I guess you could say there's maybe, I don't know, 10? 8 to 10, depending on how you want to define it. So you've got these 3 here, mirrored on this side. So these 3 are definitely contestable, especially because you're 2 base into 1. You're basically trying to get these 3 properties. This one is maybe accessible. Mainly because it's walled off by the river, but indirects can really easily set up and ward you off of this one, so it can be very hard to claim. So generally you want to play for these 3. I guess, I'd say these 4 in the center, I think is where it gets a bit hazy. These 2 for sure are definitely contestable. These ones right next to the HQ technically are. Reinforcements aren't that close. You can get to the HQ very quickly, but this is still 2 turns. This one won't get there for like 3 turns. Airport is 2 turns. There might be a window where you can squeeze this in, but I think it's a bit much. Generally want to play for these 2 central ones. And there's 3 here, so there's about 8 properties that you're playing through on the map. As usual, you want to try and get about 5 to 8 of these will put you in a winning position because you're still having an economic advantage. So generally, that's what you're looking for. This matchup, generally pretty Kindle favored. Both COs kind of want to do the same thing, which is just plant big units on cities and then make them unattackable because you'll take too much damage in return. So they have very similar playstyle, but generally this kind of matchup ends up revolving around who can kind of park on the most effective cities with the most effective units, and as a result have a big firepower bonus in that regard. So let's get straight into today's game, shall we? Tom going first here. Hope we're all doing well today. Cap phase on this map, I think it's pretty straightforward. My opponent actually goes for the neutral base. Not surprising stuff, they're very standard, I'm doing the same. And I start going for the close caps, close to my base. Pretty sure my opponent will do the same. I don't think there's any weird capture movements on this map. I think cap phase is pretty standard. Nothing too out of the ordinary. I actually said I'm going for this back cap. I think I could have gone for this forward one first, maybe, and then had these go more aggressive. I think that might be a bit more effective than going back so soon. I've really been thinking a lot about my capture phases recently, you know, talking to good players and like watching good players play, like Shu, for example, and Sonya the Superior and P0, and kind of watching their replays, you know, really trying to think more about my capture phase. I think I have a pretty solid understanding of it for the most part, but there's sometimes you can just use even extra tricks that kind of affect the game in a massive way. I've had a few games recently where I feel like, you know, just rethinking about capture phase and thinking about, you know, where the most effective way to move your units is can really give you a massive advantage, even against players of like even level, you know, just because if you play the capture phase better, you know, playing the single player game sets you up so much better to play the multiplayer game when it eventually starts happening. Good foundation gives you pretty good. So aggressive tanks coming out on either aggressive side. I built a recon down here, getting ready to scout a bit. My opponent, yeah, pushed out very aggressively, and they've already kind of got to these like centralized properties. This one, like I said, this one's one of the big 3 contested ones, so getting here early is quite valuable. But they have, you know, delayed capturing some of these further back ones. Not a dramatic amount. This is kind of like a move I'm talking about, where you do a 1, 2, 3 and a double, you know, here. If this property chained to another one, I think this would be far more effective. Sadly, it's kind of an isolated one, so while they are getting a contested one, I think it's not super efficient overall. But it will give them a, you know, a holding on it, probably for most of the early game. So mostly doing my back caps, finishing my back cap properties now. Moving my infantry forwards, getting out there with my vehicles, you know, trying to get some scouting done with my recon. Maybe get some hits with my tank on my recon. Especially because this is my aggressive side. Most trades I take here will be very effective, because if I kill the infantry here, generally that's how you want to play strong side, right? You want to force your opponent to situations where they have to throw away infantry, because it's much harder for them to replace infantry down here when they have to build vehicles to combat your vehicles. So very often, you know, you want to try and find ways to pick off infantry. More so, you know, maybe in the mid game once the capture phase is over, but even in the capture phase, you know, it's very, very influential. I'm probably putting a second tank on the strong side. No recon coming out for them yet. Which is fine. You know, you don't need to rush a recon. I think I just built one because it was efficient for my turn. I built a tank on my weak side as well instead of building my second tank on my strong side. It's quite easy to front switch on this map as well, especially if you control the center. So that's always something to consider. So I get my recon into the middle. I keep this tank in the woods for now. Just covering a lot of good space. In case my opponent walks up, tries to harass me or something. And just scouting out the infantry a bit with the recon. I'm just doing some standard stuff, moving forwards. Obviously, you know, I want to try to avoid giving up these 3 properties. Or these 3, I suppose. This one looks like it's pretty much done. Much easier for the second player to reach it early, but if you'd be able to get it as the B player, it'd be nice. First artillery comes off my opponent on the top side. They already have 2 tanks up there, so it could be pretty effective. You know, standard 14k turn if you're in this kind of position. I scout out this infantry on the city. Just moving forward, my army of penguins. Getting in position. I built my first B-copter as well. No anti-air for my opponent, so it could come as a nasty surprise. Take control of these woods next to the city. Haven't seen any of my opponent's units up here yet, but it's very likely they're pushing forward, much like I am. So just try to control this property. Like I said, you know, these 3 are the contested ones. You want to try and hold these as well as you can defensively, especially because your reinforcements are a little bit faster. You know, 1, 2, 3. If you count it, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The tank can hit this, but it can't get to this area. It would take 3 turns to my opponent's tanks to kind of reinforce if we're fighting here. Whereas it only takes me 2 turns, so I can get to reinforce a little bit quicker. Split this recon into the city. I actually move it in a way where, if I moved it like this, you know, or like this, my opponent might have seen what I did, but I kind of moved to the right and then went back around. There's always something slippery you can do with like set paths, and Make it look like you're going somewhere you're not, maybe. Build a recon on the top side, just try and get a bit more intel. Capture phase, very even at the moment. Our opponent's actually going to be... No, we're going to be 19 to 19 next turn as well. Unless they walk in and attack this. I must have missed a move. My infantry's also disappeared, but there must have been a move missed here that revealed the infantry. Haven't seen my vehicles yet, though. They see this tank, actually, but they don't see this recon in the brush, so... They start capturing the city. It does reveal my tank here, but they don't have any options to hit it. But they are moving up vehicles to defend. They built the first anti-air on the top side. Good prediction. Moving this recon up. I hit this infantry. Prevent the city capture. I'm gonna get hit back probably, but don't want to give away this city for nothing. You know, sometimes it can be okay to take a trade that you know will probably suck. I guess this could have been a double hit in theory, but I don't know. I guess I just didn't think it was likely. And I do see this tank on the city, so it'd be weird if my opponent had like 3 tanks in this area, maybe. But no, not impossible. But yeah, this is maybe a little bit dangerous. Actually, I suppose my opponent does reinforce in 2 turns from this base, now that I remember. I remember this one's here, I forgot. So I guess they can get to this sort of fight. So I guess it is just a really risky weak side, but you do want to try and hold the properties as much as you can, to the best of your ability. So trading back in the center. I pick up this infantry down here, almost 1 HP. I just start taking some early swings, especially because, you know, I'm going to be fighting in the center, so generally something you like to do is when you fight somewhere, you want to fight at other places, you know, that are near that area, so it forces your opponent to make choices. You know, I can see this tank here, and I can assume they probably have more tanks around here, so I want to force them to just come down and hit this infantry rather than trying to reinforce the central area. Where I'm probably going to be, you know, try to pick off these infantry. Like, I hit this with my recon, pull this infantry off, pick that off with the tank, get the tank on the city, pull the copter up. Moving some more infantry out. Double tank infantry turn. Save a bit of cash. Could have gone for a copter tank infantry, but I think I just need more tanks on this side still. Yeah, so I do try, I guess, to capture this as well for the same reason, you know. It's forcing my opponent, you know, do they want to fight here? Do they want to reinforce here? Do they want to stop this capture? I do end up giving an infantry, but I did take a few infantry of my own last turn, so I don't feel too bad about it. End up moving a tank onto the city as well, revealing that to me. Trading back a bit in the bottom side. Don't manage to pick up my infantry. He stays alive. And they do get the first strike on this tank. Very ugly. Not what you like to see. They try to block it off, but I have the units just to free it, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And they get a really good artillery in this position as well. This is really effective. Especially because I didn't get this city yet. It's really effective at warding me off it too. It doesn't necessarily mean they can capture it, but it definitely means that it's harder for me to get to it. So I do pick up this infantry. I move this infantry forwards into the woods, get a bit of scouting. You want to try and keep your low HP units alive to like scout and stuff if you can. Again, I start going for this capture, maybe a bit much, but I do have a fair few vehicles in the area. Moving another tank up, pick up this infantry, my tank, so I can pull my other tank and be back to the city, and then I get a recon in the solid wood position. Just building a bit of a formation here. I pull the copter up here because this is a bit worrying. Definitely getting a bit trounced on the top side. I pull another tank as well. Like I said, once you control the center, it's very easy to reinforce either side depending on what you need. So center control can be quite valuable on this map. Get some tanks on my cities, ready to hit any tanks. You know, the thing about doing this is Kindle as well. Like I said, I want to force my opponent to waste infantry and waste vehicles where I can. So they're going to walk in with these infantry and these tanks, and then, you know, especially if they clean the city but aren't able to sit on it, then I can sit a tank on the city and get a really strong first strike with my day-to-day bonus. Like, it's all about who controls the city and kind of, like, getting value from parking on them, you know? It's what I was talking about in the matchup earlier. Built some artilleries, finally. Double artillery copter infantry. Pretty efficient turn. Managed to spend exactly all my money, which was 22k. So that's quite nice. Start capturing this outside property. I've already got that one. Still even on income for now. I am starting to get one of these middle contested ones. They actually end up retreating from this top side. Definitely a bit deep. Didn't want to overextend into my reinforcements. Let's see if they go for interrupts here. They reveal the 1 HP infantry. Hit it with the tank. Hit the infantry that's capping. But this sets up exactly kind of how I want it, you know? And it's much harder for my opponent. You know, they do have more tanks here right now, but they're pulling a lot from their top side as a result. A little bit ahead in unit count for me here as well. Reveal the infantry. Go and double hit it with some infantry. Feels good. They did scout this property, but I managed to already get it. Pull this infantry off. Get the one shot with tanks. Kindle tanks one shot on 0 terrain. Especially with the comm tower. I think it might be even on planes with the comm tower. They just one-shot infantry. I didn't know the artillery was here still, so I parked on the city to try and hold it. Prevent prevent my opponent from doing so, but yeah, I'm not aware of the artillery. Really aggressive artillery plus from my opponent, very effective. So I'll try to capture this aggressive one. I just kind of like see a lot of my opponent's units top and bottom, so I'm not sure how much central pressure they have, so I'll just see if I get this. And like I said, once I've sound this, even if my opponent attacks into me, I still get pretty reasonable trades at the end of the day. Not super bad. Can't get the first strike here actually, I remember, because my opponent put it in the woods. So very smart response from my opponent, like, even though they managed to like, even though they did put it near the city, I actually can't get a unit in position to reveal this tank, so really effective usage of this woods. I didn't consider that. But I do get artillery up now to reinforce this little army I've got going on down here. Probably gets a recall, moves forwards, reveals my tank, gets a big artillery shot, but it does reveal the artillery to me. Now I know that there's one in the woods there. They interrupt this capture and start going for it. Finish off my tank with their tank. Park on the city, one-shot my infantry. Ouch. Very bad turn. Losing a lot on the top side. My opponent's playing great up here, to be honest. Or I'm just playing too aggressive. One of the two. Probably a combination of both. They do interrupt this cap, but you know, like I said, I get a 6 for 6. Like, they are going to bring other infantry up, but feeling pretty fine about all this. I'll get good counter trades the following turn from the cities. So I'll put my units back, getting an artillery in position, trying to get up and, you know, I mean, my opponent isn't taking this city at the end of the day. I don't need to worry too much about all this. They're not going to attack into here. They don't have enough information, and it's too close to my factories. So generally, they won't, like, try and overwhelm me. I'm still denying this city, I think, which is not, you know, it's not a huge win, but it's still at some level of win. You know, scores 20 to 20. Pick off the 6 HP infantry here. Go for the interrupt. I pull the copter up and attack the tank. I guess probably pretty risky, you know, assuming they don't have an anti-air, but I'm gonna get the 2 hit, which does give me Urban Blight. Or actually, yeah, it was perfectly fine what I did, because it gives me Urban Blight. Big Urban Blight, you know, you could assume. It's a little bit different in Fog of War with Kindle Urban Blight. All the times you're hitting it kind of blindly, and your opponent could definitely play around it. But you know, here I'm getting a lot of value. You know, 2 tanks, 2 infantry, artillery, 2 more tanks, this recon, lower this capture more, which lets me interrupt him better. Pull the HP tank up, get a big hit here. I do know the artillery's here, but I'm getting really effective trades, I feel like, so it's not the end of the world. I do scout the anti-air. Finish off this tank with a double hit. Once again, go for this aggressive cap. Start trying to cap this bottom city as well. Just try to win somewhere, you know, forcing my opponent to spread their attacks a lot. Pick up this infantry with the recon, which opens up the city to get another infantry kill. Get a first strike on this infantry, especially during my power. First strike's really effective. I get a really nice artillery placement here. Maybe reachable by my opponent, honestly, but I don't know if they have the knowledge or the vision to do so confidently. And, you know, if they do try and break this artillery, I have a lot of vehicles, you know, backing it up. So, you know, if you do get artillery in places like this, you just want them to be in positions where your opponent will end up giving a lot in the trade just to try and kill it. Which I kind of feel like I'm confident able to do here with a copter, you know, an anti-air. If they do use a copter to break it, I have an anti-air ready. Yeah, I've got a tank, capping 2 cities. Just trying to force my opponent to make choices. And I build tank copter on the top side. Still need more reinforcements up here. Pull the tank back, get a big hit. I think maybe it's better for them to take this out. Then they could have gone in with the anti-air, because they went for the big attack on the other tank with the artillery. While it is a bit more effective spread damage, it is going to preserve my copter. So they just interrupt this infantry, and they hit that infantry with this infantry. Because I'm in Urban Blight, I actually win the trade. It comes out 6-5. Kinder's crazy, man. Big hit on the tank with this copter. Pick off the infantry. Hit my other tank from the city, move another tank down, but my artillery is preserved, as you can see. So that's quite good for me. You know, again, you know, just force my opponent to make whatever choice they make, you just want them to feel like it's not attackable, right? Like, you want to set up armies in positions where wherever choices they make, you'll end up getting big value on the following turn. So here I'm going to get a full HP artillery strike onto any of these tanks. I have an anti-air to take out the copter. I have another copter to, like, assist as well, get another big strike, you know. Just always trying to make it so your army has multiple conditions for winning. My opponent, you see, they lost so much money this turn. They only had 14.9, I guess, because they spent 12. So they can't even afford to get 2 tanks without base skipping. Just the Urban Blight tax. Kindle's coming for you. So I actually hit the tank. Walk in, get a big first strike from the city with the copter. Finish off the tank. Definitely another way I could have played this out. You could argue I could have like left this and then moved this and then got the copter and this kind of thing, but I ended up just taking out the 2 tanks instead. I still have the anti-air to cover any of the copter hits, so not too nervous about the enemy copter for now. Moving more reinforcements forward. Put my anti-air in the woods. It still hasn't been reviewed, I think, but it covers like all these units now. Wherever the copter goes, should be able to hit it. Moving my reinforcements out, retreating on the top side again. Trying to play around a good artillery position. Getting more reinforcements. But you see, the thing about this attack that my opponent's doing is there's no infantry here. Realistically, I don't even have to worry about this kind of attack because it's just vehicles. They can't take this property. And I mean, I'm not going to get this property, you know, without building more of an army. But if my opponent isn't getting it, they're not really winning anything here, you know? They are at 1k, mainly because they denied me these cities and they have the matching property on the bottom side. So they are a little bit ahead of the economy right now, but they are throwing away a lot of material and wasting a lot of time to not kind of win anything here. If you know what I mean. Tank, double infantry, copter, very standard now. You know, I could go more aggressive and build more vehicles, but generally, it's better to get an infantry trail coming out all the time, so I always have more foot soldiers ready to capture properties in these fights. You know, my opponent's just spamming a lot of vehicles up here, which is great, and it's doing well for them in the fight, but it is not letting them, you know, pressure many of these captures. So my opponent doesn't get prime tactics, doesn't do anything for copters, thankfully, so I still survive this one with an A2. Moving in with infantry, but my artillery's still in this great position, you know, and my opponent can't really manage to break it. They move their recon onto the city to get some scouting done. Pulling infantry back. Looks like I will manage to get this central city finally, which will put me into even economy again. Very ahead of the unit count right now. Mostly because I've just preserved a lot more of my infantry. I'm 17 to 7. I have a 10 infantry lead right now. Some of them are very low HP, it's pretty standard, but you know, at the same time, I am very, very ahead. My opponent has put out this top area, and I can see that for the most part, because I can see these 2 tanks, and I saw them rolling from the right, so I know they've kind of retreated from this area again. Pick off this infantry with the artillery. Just a free one-shot. Finish capturing this city, start capturing the other neutral. Walking forward, blocking with my infantry. Again, this artillery position is so effective. My opponent still doesn't manage to get their artillery in a solid spot either. They are covering some units up here, but they're not pressuring this area. So my artillery play down here has been very effective, I think. Moving more infantry up, moving reinforcements up. You got a copter forward, it's got the one shot on their copter. Especially during prime tactics, obviously, you don't really want to hit anything. I think my opponent could position even more aggressively, you know, to be honest, because I don't want to hit a lot of these units. You know, even on woods, stuff becomes 4-star terrain, right? It's like hitting something on a HQ. Very, very difficult. During glass is super. But fortunately, yeah, all I had hit this turn was like an infantry on a river, 0 stars, and a copter, 0 stars. So I managed to get like solid attacks that aren't really influenced by prime tactics at all. Pushing up very slowly on this top side, getting my artillery in the woods. Just trying to edge out a bit. Now I'm gonna get the interrupt on this capture in the middle. Got a bunch of reinforcements coming down here as well. Ready to punish any assault on this anti-air. But, you know, any assault on this anti-air is running into this artillery again. This artillery position, very forward, but it's been very, very effective. Opponent does build their first medium tank on this top side. I built a couple of tanks down here last turn. Could have been a medium tank as well for me. Just trying to reinforce as much as I can. Especially because I really do feel like I'm winning on the unit count. I can feel it in the game. Just because, you know, you can always check the stats as well. You know, you can go to menu stats. This is something really useful to do in Fog of War. And you can literally see the value you've got in the game, you know? Wait, I've killed 16 tanks this game? Holy moly. But, yeah, at this point, this might be at the end of the game. I think this might be when it's done. Because it's just in the replay. But you can always open this menu and take a look and see what kind of value the game is at. It's a really useful habit in Fog. So my opponent walks in and tries to chip this infantry, but does walk right into my fogged, or my wooded artillery. So very effective shot there for me. I move up my recon. Hit this infantry to 2. Not sure why. Oh, I saved the city because I wanted to get the big hit on this tank. So I get a battlecopter hit on this tank, finish it off with the infantry. Move this 1 HP infantry forwards to get some more terrain. And I aggressively position my artillery in these woods. This might be a bit of an overextension, I won't lie, but I am trying to like get up Now that I feel pretty confident in this lower area, I do want to try and get these like 2 properties maybe instead. So I'm kind of pivoting my army to the center, like I said, getting some really strong central control, and then I'm going to use that to dictate where we fight on the map, which should give me the opportunity to kind of open up some properties. Because I've been struggling to get this capture at this point, and I can assume, you know, when my opponent's retreated a bit, they probably have a force building here. So I'm just going to try and pivot to the middle, and then maybe control the right side of the center. My opponent has no real vision of this area. They do have a recon here, but they can't really see most of these moves, so they won't be 100% sure where my army is or where it's going. So now I'm walking up again with units up here, trying to bait my opponent into taking a fight a bit, maybe. Because at this point, I have so many reinforcing units coming that I'll be able to, like, squish this army. I do have an artillery in these woods, but they have no units to really give vision. Because I managed to clear out everything here. So yeah, you see, quite dark for my opponent where my army is. All they can really see are these infantry. Not really sure on the rest of my units. I do move forward the tank, pick up some infantry here. Recon moves forwards, gets a scout, and the anti-air moves forwards and reveals my artillery, but it's too late. You've already blocked yourself off. So really, really happy with this artillery placement. Then my opponent, you know, this is really easy to do accidentally in fog. You know, they've already hit all of these units here, so they can't kill this infantry anymore. And then suddenly they've blocked off the only attacking angle they have on this artillery, which was revealed in the woods. Artillery does pick up my recon. They get some good first strikes on my tanks. Medium tanks creeping forwards. Obviously, I'm not yet aware of its presence. Still haven't managed to get this neutral city yet. I think capturing this should have been a big priority for me. I definitely feel like it just took me too long to get it, because my opponent, they did keep interrupting it, but I do feel like I have control of this area, right? I have the more aggressive neutral, but I can't manage to get this one. It's really weird. I guess technically it's further from my 2 bases, so maybe realistically it's more likely to go to my opponent, but, you know. Just kind of funny, I guess. So my following turn, get a big hit with the artillery on this tank, finish it off with the 4 HP. I start capturing this property again. When will I ever learn? Moving up with more reinforcements. Get some hits on this infantry, reveal the artillery. Pop Urban Blight. Apparently I decided to finish off this 1 HP infantry. I'm not really sure what I was thinking about that one. Do hit this artillery. Just flying with copters here, just getting multiple hits. I see the anti-air here, and I'm kind of assuming that's my opponent's only one. Maybe it's a bit greedy to do so, but... And again, I also have like 4 copters here, right? So it's a bit of an overload as well. It's another thing you can do against anti-air. It's weird for people to have more than 1 anti-air per front. It's very uncommon. So, by doing something like this, I can actually, like... You know, the anti-air can't kill all of them. So I need to force my opponent to put other anti-air, or... You know, it can just be a bit overwhelming. And I do get a big first strike on it anyway, so it's a 4 HP now. Put my anti-air forwards, finish up this recon. Oh, that's a bit weird. But I guess I finished up the recon. I'm also trying to block my artillery, I suppose. And because it's in the woods, you know, it's pretty annoying as well. I mean, they're doing artillery on the HQ, so it's probably not going to work very well, but... It can be really annoying to, like, get to this artillery just because it's in the woods, because you need to have a unit next to it that hasn't attacked. So I move up with my artillery, and end up touching artilleries here. I'm like, oh, awkward. And I don't think this is in range to quite reach, no, because of the woods. My opponent's next turn, getting a bit close to prime tactics again. Generally the way this matchup works is, you know, I'm getting a lot of power out of Urban Blight, using that to build advantages. Big unit count and unit value for me here, but it is my opponent's turn on the counterattack. Yeah. So I'm trying to build CO power advantages, but when Lash gets prime tactics, she can obviously often get very effective turns. So they do get a big hit on my tank here, get another first strike, finish off the anti-air, move forward with the tank, get a hit on my artillery finally, get a first strike on my tank. But I have a lot of reinforcements in this area, and you know, the other thing is I'm attacking this city again. So because my opponent makes all these attacks into my army, I may actually end up getting this city, because suddenly they don't have units to interrupt anymore as effectively. Actually, I'm moving with 2 HP infantry unit. Doesn't do enough to do 1 damage, sadly. So it looks like I am going to get this city. So once again, you know, you see I'm forcing multiple objectives. And then whatever decision my opponent makes, I'm winning something. So I win this city. You know, I don't lose much material here. I take some damage, but I am going to win this city. And that's the big win for me here. Because obviously every enemy city you win is a 2k income swing. So yeah, they do another anti-air up here. Probably what I expect. But they don't have much money because of the Urban Blight tax. Swing round, hit this copter, does get a 7 hit, even at 4 HP. So So obviously, very good. Can't be mad about that one. So unit count and value still in my favor pretty dramatically. Even after my opponent's counterattack turn. Still playing aggressively here, you know, just trying to make sure this, you know, I assume there's an anti here. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I should have probably been a bit safer because it actually can't reinforce, but I assumed it was one of these two bases was probably an anti so. But it does free up the city and allows me to get big hits. So I guess it's debatable. You know, I am cleaning up a lot of my opponent's army here. Just getting very strong attacks. Don't manage to pick up the artillery, which sucks because it's going to get prime tactics next turn. But, you know, I am cleaning up a lot of material here. I own over this cap, but it's covered by my opponent. It sucks. Pulling more reinforcements into the middle. Pick up this recall with my copter. Or anti-air, sorry. Same principle though, I guess, and I do end up covering pretty well. I don't know about this medium tank because it's in the woods, but I do end up covering a lot of the attacks the anti-air could get if I do assume that there is one here, which I do. So I am kind of like protecting my copters fairly well. I hit this. Oh, I did no damage to the artillery with my 1 HP copter. That sucks. Very sad. Just moving in, pressuring more cities. Finally got this city in the top right as well so now I'm 22 to 20k. So finally have an economic lead, which is obviously what you're always pushing for in these games. You want to get an economic lead, use that to ramp up an army. You'll always be building more than your opponent, so eventually you'll just have an overwhelming force. So finally established my lead. My opponent's been quite copter-light this game. I guess you could argue that copters aren't great for Lash because they don't have terrain stars, so they don't benefit from her day-to-day, but they're still very, very effective. You should definitely be building copters whenever you can, but my opponent's been quite copter-light. Especially on this map, I feel like it's quite easy for them to move around. I mean, it's quite easy for anything to move around, so copters don't have that advantage quite as much, but, you know, still very effective. I'm also using this fight as an opportunity to get another infantry here. Can maybe finally get this neutral city as well, which would put me 4k up. Oh, my opponent's actually at 19, so I'm actually plus 3k, so, you know, really effective. Prime Tactics comes out, interrupt my capture, come down with the anti-air, pick up a copter. Tanks are moving forwards. Getting some big hits. Artillery picks off my infantry. But, you know, I already got the city, so I'm not too worried about it. Finally, the medium tank does reveal itself, picks off a tank. 3 HP from the artillery. I lose this infantry capping at the below. Loses copters, 1 HP, it's just scouting through basically. But I do know the artillery's here, and I actually have an artillery in these woods as well, so I know I can get a big hit eventually. Maybe not the following turn due to prime tactics, but soon TM. So my next turn coming up. Once again, I have Blight available if I am interested, but probably not this turn, honestly. I'm just retreating here because, like I said, you really don't want to attack into prime tactics if you can avoid it. So I'm just putting units back to cities. I get an artillery hit on this tank because it's free, and I finish it up with the 3 HP tank. Even though it's on plane, it's only 2 stars. And the artillery can't get any good counter hits. Probably have to retreat itself. Rest of my units just sitting on cities or holding position. But I do manage to pick off the tank there in response, even through prime tactics, which feels really good. Build my first medium tank as well. Maybe a bit late. Probably could have gone for it a little bit earlier. I had a lot of tanks in this game, so could have definitely reinforced with some stronger tech ups. Put infantry on the city just to heal. If my opponent wants to hit this, I'm just going to kill this artillery, so I'm not really worried about it. They are pushing forwards. They do pick off the infantry on the city, I think, with the medium tank. Or it's really low, one of the two. I guess it's really low, because they didn't walk onto the city. And then, you know, they're advancing forwards with their troops. Maybe a bit aggressive from my opponent, you know. Very often when your opponent wants to retreat, it could be a common move to just kind of match it, you know. You know, if your opponent retreats, you can take that time to retreat as well. And just hold the line, repair, rebuild your army. You know, chasing aggressively into your opponent is always pretty dangerous because I have more reinforcements coming, right? You're walking to my side of the map where it's more likely that I have fresh tanks ready to go. So it can be very difficult for you to continue fighting. So maybe a bit over-aggressive to be chasing into me here. Tank, anti-air, infantry, especially when I have Blight as well, you know? Like, you know I have a Blight turn available and coming. They are, you know, positioning the units off of properties where possible, but even still. Trap my infantry, try to check this forest, moving more of my units up. Just try to hit this medium tank with my copter because it's already low and it would just be an effective hit. I get a big scout with my recon, also using it as a bit of a blocker. Not really taking any hits here yet. Just kind of like getting a feel, you know, bringing more reinforcements up, positioning my army. No, it's not a full HP anti-air, but it's in a reasonable spot. Maybe get some damage next turn. I end up popping Urban Blight at the end anyway, I guess. I think maybe it was just to try and kill this infantry. And probably just get some damage. Make them pay the tax. Moving my units up at the top side. Finally, I feel like I have a controlling position on this top side. I'm 4k up in income. Not that I know that because it's fog, but you know, I'm finally getting some solid control of the map. Build another recon up here to do some scouting. Double tank on the bot side. I mean, I do know that I have an advantage because I'm 23k, right? And I can count cities. I guess I should... With more practice, I could definitely know exactly how ahead I am. Or with some more thought. But, you know, if we focus on the contested cities right now, you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of 8, right? So, you know, at that point, I have a 4k swing because I'm +2 and my opponent's -2. So, you know, like I said, always focusing on the contested cities, and that's kind of the way you win the game. My opponent moving forwards, getting some attacks here. First strike on my tank. Finish off with infantry. Another tank moves forwards, gets another first strike. Another first strike. Pick off the infantry. Finish off this 3 HP tank. Moving more units forwards. Anti-air picks off my artillery. And while this does feel pretty good, it's a bit dangerous because, again, they only have the 1 anti-air. And now it's almost certainly going to die. And if I have copters, which I do, in the back, now you have no answers to the copters, so... They do have another anti-air coming though, so maybe that's why they feel confident to do it. But you know, they don't really have the scouting information, I think, to go for all of these attacks necessarily. We'll see if they get punished for it. So, do I just pick up this anti-air, you know, get this tank to 1 HP, pick up this tank with the 5 HP, first strike of this infantry, finish up this tank from the city, put my medium tank on the city, which is a one-shot on the enemy tank, finish up this one on the shoal, finish up that infantry above. Get another big hit on this infantry. Hit the artillery with my 2 HP copter. Just getting some more damage. Pulling this tank back to get a bit repaired. Pulling up more tanks. Now I'm pushing forwards, trying to get these aggressive captures on my opponent's top side, because I imagine all the resources are funneling here. So once again, you know, I attack in the middle. I capture a city elsewhere. And it just makes my opponent make choices. You know, do they want to reinforce or do they defend these cities? Because this is just infantry. If you're wasting tank attacks on just infantry, especially ones that are covered by artillery, not that my opponent necessarily knows that. It's just a big win for me, you know. And it's Kindle infantry, so if you kill the infantry, you don't sit on the city, then you take a tank attack from a... You take a plus 40% tank attack from the city next turn. Getting close to another Urban Blight. So artillery does interrupt this infantry, tank moves forwards, and my opponent just resigns. I guess they felt like they were just a bit too overwhelmed. You know, like I said, forcing them to make all these choices. Yeah, I guess those were the stats at the end of the game. You know, they have to commit units up here. If they interrupt this, I'm just going to kill this tank. Pushing forward on this area, you know. This has got kind of sparse. I'm not really threatening these cities, so they're fine, but I'm kind of winning the neutral area. My mini tank's in a great position, especially comparatively. Like, my opponent's medium tank can't really hit anything, because it can't hit this, because I'm Kindle. And, you know, it can't really hit anything else, because then I'll just get a big first strike. So my opponent's going to have to retreat from this area. I've already got the economic lead. I'm going to probably win one of these cities in the next few turns. Because my opponent's army is all collected in the middle, but it's not really strong enough to break mine. So overall, I think pretty solid game, you know. Managed to wrestle some good control of the central properties, you know, focused on where I needed to win on the map. I managed to get a solid advantage, and then just kind of like close it out with overwhelming reinforcements and some good fighting. I think I had some nice artillery positioning in this game that ended up working pretty well. And overall, I found it to be a pretty enjoyable game. Definitely been enjoying Fog of War as well. It's an interesting beast, and the different decisions and choices you have to make. And even things like just aggressively attacking is really cool. And a lot of fun to get involved with. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's game. My name has been Snitch. This has been CO Select. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And I will see you next time. Bye!